I'm Lana, 28F, and I'm getting married next spring to my fiancé, Alex, 30M. My life has been a roller coaster, and I need to share my story and ask for advice about my upcoming wedding. My childhood was pretty normal until I was 10. Mom and Dad were happily married, and I was their only child. We lived in a cozy house in the suburbs, and my weekends were filled with trips to the park, baking cookies with Mom, and watching Dad work on his model trains in the basement. Mom was a kindergarten teacher, and Dad worked as an accountant. They both doted on me, and I felt loved and secure. Everything changed when Mom was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer. I was only 9 when we found out, and I didn't fully understand what was happening. I just knew that Mom was sick and spent a lot of time in the hospital. Dad tried his best to keep things normal for me, but I could see the worry in his eyes. Mom fought hard for a year, but the cancer was relentless. She passed away just after my 10th birthday. I remember the day clearly. Dad picked me up from school, his eyes red and puffy, and told me that Mom had gone to heaven. The next few months were a blur of grief and confusion. Dad struggled to cope with Mom's death. He started drinking more and became distant. I often found myself eating microwave dinners alone while he sat in his study, a glass of whiskey in hand. Our once happy home became quiet and somber. When I was 12, Dad announced that he'd met someone new, Vivian, 50F. She was a divorced real estate agent with 2 kids from her previous marriage, Zach, 32M, and Mia, 26F. Dad said Vivian made him happy again, and I should be excited about having a new mom and siblings. At first, I tried to be open to the idea. I missed having a mother figure, and part of me hoped Vivian would fill that void. But from the moment I met her, something felt off. She was polite when Dad was around, but when we were alone, she'd give me these cold, calculating looks that made me uncomfortable. Dad and Vivian got married when I was 13. They decided we'd all move into a new house together, a fresh start, Dad called it. I had to leave behind the only home I'd ever known, the one filled with memories of Mom. It felt like I was losing her all over again. From the beginning, it was clear that Vivian favored her own children. Zach and Mia got the bigger bedrooms in our new house, while I was relegated to a small room next to the laundry. Vivian decorated their rooms with care, buying new furniture and letting them choose the paint colors. My room remained bare, with just my old bed and dresser. Family activities became a source of anxiety for me. Vivian would plan trips to amusement parks, beach vacations, and skiing holidays, but I was always left behind with my grandparents or Aunt Sarah. The first time it happened, I overheard Vivian telling Dad that I was too young for the trip they had planned. I was 14, while Mia was 12. It didn't make sense, but Dad didn't question it. As time went on, the exclusion became more blatant. Vivian would discuss vacation plans right in front of me, not even pretending to include me anymore. When I asked Dad why I couldn't go, he'd make excuses about not having enough money for everyone or saying I'd be bored with grown-up activities. But I'd see pictures later of Zach and Mia having fun at water parks or ski resorts. Birthdays and holidays were especially tough. While Zach and Mia received expensive gifts like the latest gaming consoles or designer clothes, I'd get nothing or just small, impersonal items like generic gift cards. One Christmas, I received a pack of socks while Mia got a brand new iPhone. When I was 15, I overheard Vivian telling Dad that buying me presents was a waste of money since I wasn't really part of the family. Dad weakly protested, but ultimately did nothing. School became another battleground. Vivian refused to buy me new school supplies or clothes, saying I should learn the value of money. I started babysitting and doing odd jobs around the neighborhood from the age of 14 just to afford basic necessities. Meanwhile, Mia got a new wardrobe every season and the latest gadgets. Zach, who was in college by then, had a car bought for him and his tuition fully paid. The worst part was the constant emotional abuse. Vivian never missed an opportunity to belittle me. She'd criticize my appearance, saying things like, "No wonder you don't have a boyfriend, who'd want to date such a plain Jane? Or you should really try to lose some weight, honey. No one likes a chubby girl." She'd compare me unfavorably to Mia, who was naturally slim and outgoing. Vivian would also make snide comments about my intelligence. If I brought home a B on a test, she'd say, "Well, I guess you're just not as smart as your mother." What a shame. She told me that my mom would be disappointed in me and that I was a burden to everyone. These words cut deep, especially since I had few memories of my mom to counter these claims. Zach and Mia, following Vivian's lead, joined in the emotional torment. They'd mock me at dinner, making jokes about my clothes or my lack of friends. Mia would sometimes borrow my things without asking and return them damaged, if at all. Once, she took a necklace that had belonged to my mom and lost it. When I got upset, Vivian accused me of being materialistic and selfish. I tried to talk to Dad about what was happening, but he always brushed off my concerns. He'd say things like, "Vivian is just trying her best, or you need to try harder to fit in with the family." It was like he couldn't, or wouldn't, see how I was being treated. The breaking point came when I was 17. I had a small box of mementos from my mom, photos, a few letters she'd written to me, and some pieces of jewelry she'd left for me. I kept this box hidden in my closet, only taking it out when I really needed to feel close to her. One day, I came home from school to find my room in disarray. The box was open on my bed, and everything inside was destroyed. The photos were torn, the letters shredded, and the jewelry was missing. I was devastated and furious. I confronted Vivian, and she smirked, saying, "Oops, I must have accidentally thrown those old things away while cleaning. You really should keep your room tidier, Lana." I lost it. I yelled at her, calling her a cruel, heartless witch and accusing her of deliberately destroying my only connection to my mom. Dad came home during our argument. Instead of defending me or trying to understand what had happened, he grounded me for disrespecting my stepmother. He didn't even ask to see the destroyed mementos or consider that Vivian might be lying. That night, I packed my bags and left. I couldn't stay in that house for one more minute. I went to my Aunt Sarah's place. She was my mom's younger sister, and we'd always been close. When I showed up on her doorstep in tears and told her everything that had been happening, she was horrified. She immediately agreed to let me stay with her and help me finish my last year of high school. For years after that, I had no contact with Dad or Vivian's family. I worked hard, put myself through college with scholarships and part-time jobs, and started building a life for myself. Aunt Sarah became my rock, supporting me through the tough times and celebrating my achievements. It wasn't until I was 24 that Dad reached out to me. He said he wanted to reconnect and apologize for not being there for me. At first, I ignored his messages. I was doing well in my career, had a good group of friends, and had started dating Alex. I didn't feel like I needed Dad in my life anymore. But after talking it over with Aunt Sarah and Alex, I agreed to meet Dad for coffee. He cried when he saw me, telling me how sorry he was and how much he'd miss me. He said he'd realized how badly he failed me as a father and wanted to make amends. I was wary but agreed to give him a chance, telling him that if he wanted a relationship, he'd have to earn it. Over the past 4 years, we've slowly rebuilt our relationship. We started with occasional phone calls, then progressed to monthly dinners. Last year, he attended my college graduation ceremony, and it felt like a turning point. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a dad again. Now, with my wedding to Alex approaching, I'm faced with a difficult decision. I want Dad at my wedding, but I absolutely don't want Vivian, Zach, or Mia there. They've never apologized or shown any remorse for how they treated me. The thought of them being at my wedding makes me feel sick. I talked to Dad about this, explaining that I wanted him there as a guest, but not Vivian or her kids. At first, he seemed understanding, but then he started pressuring me to invite them. He said they're his family too, and it would be unfair to exclude them. When I stood firm, he threatened not to come if they weren't invited. I was hurt and angry. I told him, "If you choose them over me again, then don't bother coming. Our relationship will be over." He tried to argue, but I cut him off and said I didn't want to hear from him again unless he was ready to respect my wishes. Now, my phone is blowing up with messages from Dad's side of the family. They're saying I should be the bigger person and invite everyone to keep the peace. But I don't want to. This is my wedding day, and I don't want it ruined by people who made my life miserable for years. Alex and his family fully support my decision. My Aunt Sarah says I have every right to invite only people who truly care about me. But I can't help feeling conflicted. Am I wrong for not inviting Vivian and her kids? Should I give in to keep the peace or stand my ground? First update, it's been a week since my last post, and things have escalated far beyond what I ever imagined. I'm still in shock, but I wanted to update you all on what's happened. The day after I posted, I woke up to hundreds of notifications on my phone. Somehow, Vivian had found out about the wedding situation in my Reddit post. She'd shared it on her social media, twisting the story to make herself look like the victim of an ungrateful stepdaughter. Her post went viral in our local community. Suddenly, I was getting messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years, old classmates, former neighbors, even some of Dad's coworkers. Most of them were nasty, calling me selfish and cruel for excluding my family from the wedding. What hurt the most were the lies Vivian was spreading. She claimed she'd always tried to be a loving mother to me, but I'd rejected her from the start. She said she'd spent years trying to include me in family activities, but I'd always refused. According to her, I was a troubled child who lashed out at everyone and made up stories for attention. Vivian painted a picture of herself as a patient stepmother who had tried everything to bond with me. She talked about how she'd supposedly stayed up late helping me with homework, which never happened, how she tried to take me shopping for mother-daughter bonding time, also never happened, and how she'd always made sure to include me in family photos. I have years of family photos that prove otherwise. She even went as far as to claim that she tried to help me deal with my grief over my mom's death, saying she'd suggested therapy and support groups that I'd refused. In reality, any mention of my mom was met with scorn or dismissal in that household. The worst part? Dad was backing her up. He posted a long message about how heartbroken he was that his daughter was tearing the family apart. He painted himself as a devoted father who'd always put his children first, conveniently forgetting all the years he'd ignored my pain. Dad's post talked about how he'd always tried to be fair to all his children, biological and step. He claimed that any perceived favoritism towards Zach and Mia was just my imagination, and that he'd always made sure I had everything I needed. He even had the audacity to say that he'd respected my decision to live with Aunt Sarah, as if I'd had any real choice in the matter. I was overwhelmed and didn't know how to respond. Alex suggested I take a break from social media, but the damage was already done. People were sharing Vivian's post and adding their own stories about what a difficult child I'd been. Old classmates chimed in with stories about how I was always moody or antisocial in school, conveniently forgetting that I was dealing with the loss of my mother and the abuse at home. Former neighbors talked about how they'd always seen Vivian trying to include me in activities, neglecting to mention the times they'd seen me left behind when the rest of the family went on trips. Then, 3 days ago, I received a cease and desist letter from a lawyer representing Vivian and Dad. They claimed my Reddit post was defamatory and demanded I delete it and make a public apology. If I didn't comply, they threatened to sue me for damages. I was terrified. I couldn't afford a lengthy legal battle, especially with the wedding expenses. I called Aunt Sarah in tears, not knowing what to do. She immediately came over and helped me calm down. Then she made a call to her friend, Lisa, 50F, who happens to be a lawyer specializing in defamation cases. Lisa reviewed the letter in my original post. She assured me that truth is an absolute defense against defamation claims. She also pointed out that I hadn't named anyone in my post, so it would be hard for them to prove it was about them specifically. With Lisa's help, I drafted a response to their lawyer. We stated that I stood by everything in my post, and if they pursued legal action, I was prepared to provide evidence of the abuse I'd suffered, including testimonies from teachers and neighbors who'd witnessed it. Yesterday, I received another bombshell. My cousin Jake, 25M, reached out to me. He's Dad's nephew, and we were close as kids before Vivian came into the picture. Jake said he'd seen Vivian's post and knew it was all lies. He revealed that when we were teenagers, he caught Vivian badmouthing me to other family members at a reunion. He'd always felt guilty for not speaking up then, but now he wanted to help. Jake shared a memory from when I was 15. There was a big family reunion, and I wasn't there because Vivian had told everyone I was too busy with a school project to attend. In reality, I hadn't even been told about the reunion. Jake overheard Vivian telling some aunts that I was a problem child who was tearing the family apart with my attention-seeking behavior. Jake offered to make a public post corroborating my story. He said he'd witnessed how Vivian treated me on several occasions and was willing to go on record about it. I was touched by his support but worried about the backlash he might face. As of now, I'm waiting to see how Vivian and Dad will respond to my lawyer's letter. Alex and I have decided to postpone making any wedding decisions until this blows over. We're considering having a small destination wedding instead, with just our closest friends and supportive family members. I'm still processing everything that's happened. The public shaming and threats have been overwhelming, but I'm trying to stay strong. Aunt Sarah, Alex, and his family have been incredibly supportive. They keep reminding me that I'm not alone in this. I'll update again when I have more information. Thank you all for your advice and support. It means more than you know. Second update, it's been a month since my last update, and a lot has changed. I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened, but I wanted to share the latest developments with you all. First, the good news, Vivian and Dad backed down after receiving our lawyer's response. Lisa thinks they realized they didn't have a strong case and were bluffing with their legal threats. They've gone silent on social media, and the wave of public shaming has mostly died down. Jake did end up making a public post supporting me. He shared specific instances of Vivian's mistreatment that he'd witnessed, including the time he overheard her convincing Dad not to pay for my school trip while simultaneously planning an expensive vacation for Zach and Mia. His post caused quite a stir in the family, with several relatives reaching out to apologize for not seeing what was happening when I was younger. Jake's post also included a story from when I was 16. There was a family Christmas party at my grandparents' house, and Vivian had told everyone I couldn't come because I was sick. In reality, she'd never told me about the party. Jake had stopped by our house to drop off a present for me and found me alone, perfectly healthy, while the rest of the family was at the party. When he asked why I wasn't there, I broke down and told him everything. He felt guilty for years for not speaking up then. Now, for the unexpected turn of events. About 2 weeks ago, I received a message from Mia, my stepsister. She asked if we could meet in person to talk. After discussing it with Alex and Aunt Sarah, I agreed to meet her in a public cafe. When I saw Mia, I hardly recognized her. The confident, sneering girl I remembered looked small and nervous. As soon as we sat down, she burst into tears and started apologizing. Between sobs, she told me a story that shocked me to my core. Apparently, Vivian had been manipulating all of us for years. She told Mia and Zach that I hated them and was trying to turn Dad against them. She convinced them that the only way to protect their place in the family was to push me out. Mia said she'd always felt guilty about how they treated me, but Vivian would punish her if she showed me any kindness. Mia revealed that Vivian had a history of this behavior. She'd done something similar with their father's children from a previous marriage, which was why they had no contact with their older half-siblings. Mia had recently reconnected with her half-sister and learned the truth about their shared history with Vivian. She told me about incidents I'd forgotten or never knew about. Like the time when I was 14 and had won a school art competition. Mia had wanted to congratulate me, but Vivian told her I was gloating about my win and trying to make Mia feel bad about her own lack of artistic talent. Or the time when Mia had found my destroyed mementos from my mom in the trash and Vivian had convinced her I'd done it myself in a fit of rage. I was stunned. While this didn't excuse Mia's behavior, it certainly explained a lot. She told me she's been in therapy for the past year, working through the emotional abuse she'd suffered at Vivian's hands. She didn't expect forgiveness but wanted me to know the truth. As for Zach and Dad, Mia said they're still under Vivian's influence. Zach refuses to believe anything negative about his mother and Dad. Well, Mia thinks he's too afraid of being alone to stand up to Vivian. This conversation with Mia has left me with mixed emotions. On one hand, I'm angry that it took her this long to reach out. On the other, I understand the courage it must have taken to break away from Vivian's control and face me. Alex and I have decided to go ahead with our original wedding plans. We're not inviting Vivian, Zach, or Dad, but we've left the door open for Mia to attend if she continues to show genuine remorse and a desire to make amends. Aunt Sarah has been my rock through all of this. She's walking me down the aisle, and we've planned a special tribute to my mom during the ceremony. We're going to have a locket with Mom's picture in my bouquet, and we've chosen her favorite flowers for the centerpieces. As for Dad, I've realized that I can't keep hoping he'll change. His actions have shown where his priorities lie, and I need to accept that and move on. It hurts, but I'm focusing on the family I've chosen, Alex, his parents, Aunt Sarah, and the friends who've stood by me. The wedding is in 3 months. And for the first time, I'm excited about it without any reservations. I feel like I'm finally closing a painful chapter of my life and starting a new one with people who truly love and support me. Thank you all for your advice and support throughout this journey. I'll post one final update after the wedding to let you know how it all turned out. Third update. Hello everyone, it's been 6 months since my last update, and as promised, I'm here to share how everything turned out. The wedding was absolutely beautiful. We had a small ceremony in a picturesque garden, surrounded by our closest friends and family. Aunt Sarah walked me down the aisle, and there wasn't a dry eye when we did the tribute to my mom. We had a photo of her on a special chair in the front row, with her favorite flowers. It felt like she was there with us. Mia did attend the wedding. In the months leading up to it, she continued to show genuine remorse and made efforts to make amends. She even helped with some of the wedding preparations. While we're not best friends, we're slowly building a positive relationship. On the wedding day, she gave me a heartfelt card and a locket that had belonged to her grandmother, a touching gesture to replace the one I'd lost years ago. The day wasn't without drama, though. About an hour before the ceremony, one of our guests spotted Dad lurking near the venue. Apparently, he'd found out the details from a loose-lipped relative. Thankfully, Alex's brothers quickly and quietly escorted him away before I even knew he was there. They told me about it after the reception, and I'm grateful they handled it without disrupting our day. As for Vivian and Zach, we haven't heard anything from them since the legal threats fizzled out. From what Mia has told us, Vivian is furious that Mia attended the wedding and has been trying to turn the rest of the family against her. On a happier note, cousin Jake and I have become quite close. He's been a great support, and it's nice to have a positive male family figure in my life. He and his girlfriend have become good friends with Alex and me, and we often double date. Jake has been helping me reconnect with other family members who were kept away by Vivian's lies. Alex and I are settling into married life wonderfully. We've bought a small house in a new city, away from all the drama. I've started a new job that I love, and Alex has been promoted at his company. We're talking about starting a family of our own in a couple of years, and I'm excited about the chance to create the loving home I didn't have growing up. Looking back on everything that's happened, I can hardly believe how much has changed in a year. While part of me is sad that I don't have the relationship with Dad that I always wanted, I'm at peace with it. I've realized that family isn't just about blood, it's about the people who love and support you unconditionally. Aunt Sarah continues to be a huge part of our lives. She's like a mother to me, and Alex adores her too. We have dinner with her every Sunday, carrying on a tradition that she started when I first came to live with her as a teenager. As for Mia, we're taking things slow. We meet for coffee once a month and are slowly getting to know each other as adults, without Vivian's influence poisoning our relationship. It's not always easy, but I think we're both committed to trying. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and kind words helped me stay strong during some of the toughest moments. I'm closing this chapter of my life with a heart full of gratitude and hope for the future.